Hello, everybody. Welcome to Delve Further, episode 10. No, I haven't explained why I call it Delve Further. I see you out there asking why there's a little insectoid on the logo. Maybe sometime in the future, if you're interested, I'll explain. But today I am joined with a very, very good friend of mine. Somebody who has been in, I would say, the shadows of the Overwatch scene, kind of, doing his thing, and now has absolutely exploded onto the field. It is Chris Boopasaurusrex of the top 10 Boops of the Week. You may know him if you're an OG, and if you are, because I respect you very much. So, Chris, how you doing, buddy?
That was a long time ago. That's an eternity. Yeah. Season 0. Didn't even get an actual number for that. And Carbon Series before that, the Boop of the Week, man. I remember, like, back in the day when I was, like, trying to, like, market myself, everyone would just be like, I was at a DreamHack, and everyone was like, you sound familiar. Are you there? Yeah. And no one would ever guess who I actually was, but they knew I was somebody. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully one day they'll be like, you sound familiar. And I'd be like, ah?
But that's the start of something good. You get the bug in the ear, you start to build that voice up. And you become the voice of a game, so it's ladders.
I'm good for right now as being like the familiar sound in person. Like you're from something, I know it, right? Eventually, I'll get there.
Now we just need to get the face to the voice, and then the name, and
exactly.
We'll get there.
But yeah, that was a great time back then. Blast from the past, man, for sure.
That's I remember that's how I first knew of you, and we had cross paths doing contenders, this, that, the other thing, and what kind of was, it was fun to kind of meet somebody on the inside and kind of pick their brain and like learn some things, what went on behind the scenes at Carbon. But a lot of people don't realize that you have quite an extensive history and are very, in the most positive sense, a very interesting person. Every time I get to talk to you, it's like I could just sit, have a drink, and we could talk over dinner, and I think I'd be absolutely enthralled, because I think you bring out a lot of very interesting conversations. Very, very fun.
Yeah, I have such an interesting background, right? So, like, I started as a teacher, and I was a tuba player. I was a music major in college, majored in the tuba, and everyone was right that was never going to go anywhere. And so, I went into teaching after that, and then I became a preschool teacher, and I think those kids taught me a lot of things about life.
Sure.
Right. And so I think that's really come into play, because surprisingly, I take a lot of that experience that I had as a teacher into my professional life, in terms of like talking to people and the stories I get to tell and stuff like that. It's amazing how every aspect of someone's past could contribute to their future. And it's awesome that I get to keep some of that in the past. I'm glad it's entertaining for you, man.
Well, I mean, again, I don't want it to sound like this is like, what's the quote from the movie? Like, oh, am I a clown? Haha, funny. Like, what am I? It's entertaining because it's like charming and enthralling, and you want to learn more. It's like a good book, right? You open it, you read the synopsis, and you're like, oh, this is interesting. I want to like flip through a couple pages, and you end up on chapter 99, and you're just like, wow, where's chapter? Where's book 2? And,
right. This one's got to have a sequel.
Yes, exactly.
6 seasons in a movie. Come on.
So how did a tuba player become a preschool? And what did you teach? How did teaching come out of tubing?
So tuba was my main instrument in high school. It was kind of like how I decompressed. It was like my gaming before gaming, right?
But your golf.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I played the tuba originally. This is before I knew I was gay, because there was a girl who played tuba and everyone thought I should like her. So I like switched. My parents actually had bought me a very nice trumpet. For all you music people out there, it's a Stradivarius, so that should make you hurt if you know what that means. And so I started playing the tuba, and then I ended up liking it. It was for a girl at first, and I loved it. There's something about just being the base of that of the entire sound of it.
Sure.
And so that was really cool. So that's how I started on tuba, and then I majored in it. And then I transitioned into music education later on in that, because, well, really early, because I always wanted to be a teacher. At first, I tried to do a performance thing, but that didn't happen. I wasn't quite good enough at the time.
Fair.
And so I went into music education, got my degree in 4 years in that, and then I had met an ex who was very, very into StarCraft. And so I went to my first bar craft after meeting this guy, and I got wasted and threw up at like 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And I had like the best time, right? I was like, you can watch games like this. And then like 2 weeks later, he introduced me to League of Legends, and that was it in terms of me getting the gaming, right? And so, you know, after college, this was, you know, all during / like a year after college, I needed a job. And so I started teaching private lessons. I taught piano lessons for a really long time. And then I got a gig as a preschool teacher. And then that lended itself really well to doing something on the side. And that's how I really got into esports. After I broke up with that guy, I met my current husband, and we were, you know, getting into Hearthstone, and I had started thinking about it, right? Like, you know, I think I might be a good caster. It could be something that I should explore, right? And then finding those opportunities are hard, but I happen to live in Colorado, and there's a place called Clutch Gaming here. Not related to the League of Legends or like the org.
Sure.
They did have an Overwatch League team.
The Colorado Clutch?
Yeah, Louis was on it.
Yes,
Louis
yes,
probably
that's
the
how
most
I
well
remember.
known.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I hooked up with them. I went to a Hearthstone tournament. I had just started playing Hearthstone, and then I lost in the first round in like 15 minutes. And, yeah, exactly. And then Justin, the guy who owns Clutch, was like, "Hey, one of our casters didn't show up. Does anyone in the audience want to give it a shot?" Right? And then originally I didn't say anything, and then my then boyfriend, now husband, was like,
oh, Chris, you should go.
No, he straight up goes, he wants to do it.
Oh.
And then, yeah, just straight up just made me do it. And then I did it, and it was like, I felt like Cinderella, man.
Oh.
You know, it was so much fun that first time around. And then Justin was like, hey, let's get you doing some more. And then so I casted a couple more Hearthstone tournaments. I did Hearthstone for a very long time.
Very cool.
And then Overwatch came out, and then he got me onto some Overwatch tournaments. I got on with Colorado Clutch, and then he knew the Carbon guys. And so that's how I got along through Colorado Clutch. I met Alex Gilfrost, Left Guy, and Yulong, the former owners of Carbon Entertainment. That's how I hooked up with them.
Very cool. It is a brief kind of entrance into the mind of somebody who works in esports, because I think we all do kind of come from some sort of gaming background. Like, would you say that before you had gone to that Barcraft, were you like an avid gamer? Like, what?
So I was an avid gamer. I wouldn't say that I was a consumer yet, right? In terms of like watching esports, right?
Sure.
I didn't know who Taste Hostess was at the time. This was a very long time ago. And so... yeah, and so I played mostly fighting games my whole life, all the way up until I saw Barcraft. Yeah, Street Fighter 2, Cammy main. I was pretty good at Street Fighter, Super Street Fighter, actually Ultra Street Fighter 4, as well. And I just never got past the point where I felt confident enough to like play that. And I think back then I wasn't aware that there were opportunities maybe to be a professional Street Fighter player. But Barcraft was my first like introduction to actual esports and seeing people seeing it as a business, right? And that was something I think that really spoke to me, and that initially was like, I can consume now, but eventually turned into, I want to be up there because I think I can.
Sure.
Especially after that Hearthstone cast.
For sure. And that's really, you mentioned fighting games, and I think that's super interesting, because I like to, in a weird kind of very selfish way, I like to kind of like psychoanalyze people. So on like a previous podcast, I had Iostux on, and he was like kind of like describing things, and he mentioned like World of Warcraft. I'm like, oh, you're a mage player, right? And he's like, whoa, dude, how did you know that? And I would have never guessed you would have played Cammy. I was like, maybe Sagat, like maybe some Ryu, evil Ryu a little bit.
I like Cammy because I like characters that make other people destroy their equipment.
Oh, so you're like a rage inducer.
Yeah. I'm a rage baiter. Pretty like, and so like, it's like, don't spam cannon, cannon kick, right? Sure. And then it's like, or cannon spike, and it's like, okay, sure, and I do. And then it's kind of like when you lose against someone who button mashes.
Yes, and you're just like, you don't even know what you're doing, and you're still beating me. Like, it just feels bad.
Yeah, exactly. You just happen to press the buttons on the right thing. But yeah, Cammy, just like, I don't know what it was. It really spoke to me. I played, this is actually interesting. I wonder if there's some type of psychology involved, but
maybe
throughout my life, I've actually favored female characters even to this day in most games that I play. I don't know why. I'm
you
drawn
tend to gravitate towards them.
Yeah, like for Overwatch, it was Tracer. Like immediately, I was like, I'm gonna be a Tracer main. right? And then eventually it was Diva, right? But back in Street Fighter, it was Chun-Li and Cammy all the way for a bunch of them, right? When Cammy wasn't in the game, it just didn't
play her.
Yeah, so,
no Cammy, me no buy. I'm just simple man.
Yeah. And I think my parents really didn't like her like outfit. And
I mean, yeah, just a straight up like one-piece bathing suit. Like
yeah,
I can definitely kind of understand that.
If I didn't realize I was, that might have been my parents' first clue that maybe I wasn't into
that's
girls,
it. That's
right.
That's interesting. That is.
Cammy, I'm playing Cammy because of the moves, not because of the pants,
like
or lack of.
So, for instance, like you played League, or did you play League?
I did play League. I played a lot of League. I still do.
Are you a jungler?
I was back in the day.
Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Yeah, I was.
Did you play Shyvana?
I was more of an Amumu Rammus back in the day, so that's classic, right?
Yes, very much stack 6 on Fire Capes, run it up mid.
But my first ever, because I was playing with some old friends, because at the time my ex was just like way better than me, and they put me on support. And Leona was my first ever first love, and then Lux. Like I think everyone that's ever played League of Legends has had a Lux moment. Yeah.
You can shield. There's lots of cool abilities.
There's a reason why she's so popular. And then I've been kind of like going around. Right now, I'm playing mostly support with Mr. Kenobi.
Kenobi 80 carry, is that right?
Kenobi 80 carry, yeah, exactly. And that's been super cool. And of course, Apex Legends, dude.
Yes, I mean that's the hotness right now. Are you a Wraith main?
I am a Wraith main. That is.
I think we're kindred spirits. I played Leona, got to gold, got my little reward once, and I was like, all right, I'm cool with this. I like Wraith. I like the vertical mobility. She looks cool. I don't know why she pumps her arms when her character model is like a Naruto run. Like,
I
no
love
logic
the
there.
Naruto run.
Yeah,
man. It was like one of the first things I saw when I didn't play Wraith for the first time, and then I was like, "Man, this is perfect. I love this game." It was like one of those like cherry on top.
Yeah. No, okay, and this is something we don't necessarily have to dive into, but like, do you like anime at all? Like, are we down with it?
I don't judge.
Fair.
I am very open to it. So again, like this actually goes a little bit to my past. So when I was like in high school and my early years in college, I like really cared about being cool and popular.
Sure,
like,
of course.
Good. And then I just didn't really do any. I didn't play many games. I played League in college. Like once I met my ex at the time when I was a junior. But throughout the history of just how I got here. Sure. I forgot what I was saying. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, dude. It happens. I don't even remember what question I asked, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was something along the lines of anime. And so like after I met my current husband, he was super into board games. And he had me play Dungeons and Dragons for the first time. And I think I just needed like that first kind of bite.
Sure.
Right? Because I'm a little intimidated by it, to be completely honest.
Yeah,
and, like,
it is weird.
I've watched a little bit of Full Metal Alchemist. I've watched like the casual animes out there, a couple Narutos here and there, and whatever's on Toonami when it's on, because I forget it's not Adult Swim on the weekends, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to get into it. One Punch Man, I feel like, is calling my name, because any clips I see do actually kind of crack me up. There's actually a really cool cross edit of One Punch Man facing Cell in Dragon Ball Abridged. That's really good. But yeah, so that's my opinion on anime. Like things change for sure. I think I'm a lot more open to kind of like consuming at this point, because I think it's kind of like, to me, it kind of reminds me of a hobby, right? I think I kind of like, there's like an investment that I need to make. It is to be ready for it.
It does feel like you're getting into like a very like a very popular show that's going on, whether it be like Westworld or whatever, like Game of Thrones. Like there is like a level of investment that like everybody's doing it, so like you kind of want to keep up, and there's talking points there, and it's fun, and it's kind of in pop culture. But yeah, you mentioned Wraith, and I thought I'd take a jab at it. I love it. I thought I'd take a stab at the animes, but
you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Life lessons from the teacher himself.
There it is.
Does Kenobi play Caitlyn?
Kenobi does play Caitlyn.
Yes. Let's
Caitlyn
go.
And Sivir. He's actually a baller Sivir, dude. Super good.
That feels like a very Kenobi character. Kenobi, if you're watching, no judgment. I do appreciate the calculated Sivir plays and zoning people out with Caitlyn. So you know what? Chess me up, baby. That's what I gotta say. Now, from the teaching background, before the show, we talked about some collegiate stuff, and you seem to be very, very, very prominently excitable about collegiate esports. Do you want to kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of one of those. I think esports has been called a Wild West for a very long time, right? And it's all about it's almost like Manifest Destiny in terms of how people approach it. This is my spot,
Sure.
and if my square doesn't work, it'll just join the other squares that didn't work. But if it does, it's going to make a ton of money,
Sure.
right? And so I think collegiate esports is just one of those things that, because it's attached to an educational institution, it's a little bit more intimidating to talk about. But I think there is so much value in terms of providing kids an opportunity, especially kids that are now going into college that have been playing these games for so long, an opportunity to come together and socialize, right?
Sure.
I think my biggest latent thing was I was in marching band my first year of college, marching the sousaphone at University of Colorado. And while I hated marching band at the time, my friends were awesome,
Sure.
right? And so like just being around a team like that overall made my experience better. And I think if you can offer that at a collegiate level when it comes to gaming, it both legitimizes gaming in general, the more colleges that do approach it, and two, provides opportunities for children, for young adults and growing adults to grow.
Sure.
Right. And then when they go to that next level, you're teaching them like skills, like working in groups, talking to each other, communications, those soft skills that you don't necessarily learn in class, that you do learn in these situations. And I think gaming really lends itself to that kind of learning. And so that's not competitive, but that's the stuff I think it really offers. You add that competitive aspect to it, then you have a feeder system. Like I would love a world where there's like a draft, kind of like the NFL draft, where either in Contenders or maybe it's collegiate in 10 years in the future or something, that, you know, there's like feeder systems into these leagues. And if they can be ingrained within colleges, there are some colleges out there that have amazing teams. UC Irvine, of course, Carleton up in Canada, couple Canadian schools actually very prominent in the esports world. University of Utah, University of Colorado has one. And every time I talk to these people, it's just full of passion, and there's just not a lot of support within their field, right? So I think that's one of the challenges. But what excites me the most is the educational aspect to it that I think amateur sports kind of lends itself to. And two, there's something I like about when games aren't clean when it comes to like a professional level, right? And this is why I love South American contenders, right? I love South American contenders like so much. They play with the passion that I think is hard to to find anywhere else, right? That kind of passion. There's passion everywhere, but you know, that South American passion is huge. I wouldn't say that it's the cleanest Overwatch in the world, right? But
Probably
at the same time, you know, at the same time, I think it's super entertaining because everyone's just going for it.
It's endearing.
Right? Yeah, and I think college sports kind of remind me of the same way. And so I'm drawing a little bit of those kind of like connections to support myself in my head in terms of what I think it could be. But that's what's most exciting for me in terms of collegiate esports.
I really do enjoy the point you made up about or brought up about the educational aspect, because I think as we see throughout the history of esports, you tend to see people come in that are, you know, lacking life skills in some sense, you know, whether they aren't necessarily super social, or, you know, they don't really know how to deal with this sudden burst of exposure that you wouldn't normally get just kind of just playing games, hanging out, you know, just being a normal guy or gal. And now you're just, you know, the hotness in this weird community that you really kind of were kind of into, but now you're just kind of thrust in the middle of it and you don't really know what to do. And that can be really, really like detrimental for some people. And I draw this parallel from a conversation I had with a couple other people in talking about how I would kind of not solve it, but I think collegiate esports and even high school esports, you know, when you look at high school graduates, especially when it comes to like, you know, traditional sports, they're already starting to be scouted and drafted and kind of molded, and you get to learn the ropes along the way, and then you get to go to college, and in college you learn from your coach and you learn specific things, whether it's, you know, like you said, working with a team, communication, you know, just as much as like not doing your taxes, but there's like some very applicable skills that you learn from just all of that experience that a lot of the esports athletes of today just don't have, because none of those structures are set in place. So like, where do you fall on the fence of like that kind of aspect?
I would love more structure just in general. I
Sure.
think like esports deserves a little bit of structure. I think like the hard part, like I said earlier, it's manifest destiny, right? And so I think there needs to be a little bit of a correction to understand what structure is going to be the best kind, right? And it's different per game economy, in my opinion, too. And so like you're not going to run Overwatch League the same as League of Legends, right? You're going to draw influence, right? It's kind of like that whole traditional sports to esports, like draw influence, don't copy, right? Or even when you're a caster, right? Draw influence, don't be another person, because that person already exists. And so I think the structure will really, really help. And there are definitely some schools with that structure, and you'll see these kids be very successful because they're provided those opportunities. It's all about access, right? And that's education in general. When children have access, they will drive their own learning. It's a lot of the times the adults that stop exploration because either they don't know where they're going, they don't, the adult thinks it's not important, or they're unaware, right? And so I think esports falls into this, especially with some of the older generation where video games to them are Mario. They can't fathom like the competitive aspect of Overwatch, right? I don't think that person necessarily, I think sometimes they can, but it'll be much harder to convince them otherwise, right? And so that contributes to that lack of structure, is just the lack of knowing within these organizations, within these colleges, because every college that's doing well has a sort of evangelist type of person, right? Someone who like brought up the cause, you know, did all the talking, got the clubs going. We went from a club and now we're competing in the Pac-12 and, you know, and all of this stuff. And it takes that to start these things. But I hope one day when everyone's a little bit more aware, I think robotics kind of draws some latent things too, where people are afraid of robots, so they just don't interact with them. And so I think there's a little bit of that in esports, right? There's just a little bit of fear, and the fact that it's not knowing, and there is no structure right now. And so once that's there, I could totally see a world where, you know, we see NBA teams scout, college teams are like, signs 12-year-old, you know, to full ride scholarship to, you know, Cincinnati, right? I do see a world where that could happen in esports one day. But I do think there's going to be a little bit of a correction to start. And I think cutting a little bit of the loose weight is going to be good, because I think there is a lot of bad esports. And if you're capitalizing the S, you're part of the problem.
No hyphens, none of that. Get that garbage
no
out of here.
Hyphens. Yeah, exactly. But you know, that's my kind of like roundabout way of just saying there is no structure. People who have gotten structure have done it on their own. But once we've figured out exactly how to do it, and like how to kind of talk about it too, I think is a big thing. And portray esports not just as a competitive aspect, but a friendship-making, life-changing experience like it was for me. I think a lot more people will be more inclined to explore. Because at this point, I don't even think some people are even inclined to explore it.
No, I mean, to dive into a personal anecdote, I recently had to explain what I did to a group of, you know, 3 very lovely 70-plus-year-old white women. And it was, you know, the average, you know, this is gaming and like, this is what I do. And I talk about this stuff, and like, they were interested, and they were very unjudgmental, which was nice, because, you know, you do get those people who are like, oh, gaming, this, that, the other thing. And I've been very passionate about this. I literally wrote a 5-page essay in like 2011 for my junior year. Like that, like my teacher let me write about whatever I wanted. It was about like MLG Columbus. It was great. I wish I had it, but I don't. And I explained it to them through the lens of the Overwatch League, because it's, you know, what I'm most into right now, and it's the most acceptable. It draws the most acceptable conclusions. Like, you know, it has ESPN and it's on TV, and look at, like, we're selling at the Barclays Center. And we can nitpick about the Overwatch League all we want, but it does do a justice for, I think, esports and competitive gaming in general.
100%.
You know, it does add a legitimacy that is needed. You know, we can argue till the cows come home about if we need to be legitimate or not, but to grow and be outward reaching and build that kind of friendship, and well, not build that friendship, but build the structure that is conducive to that friendship and very traditional sports mind and focus, if that makes sense, through college and those feeder systems, it has to be legitimate and people have to see a reason and a want to do it. So no, I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, man, I think awareness is the first start of any movement, right?
Sure.
And I think esports people are aware of now, and it's just kind of like, what's that next step, right? It's having a place that's, I think the esports in general are pretty fractured, I think inherently because of the games that we play, right? There's the FGC, then the LEC and the LCS and the Overwatch League, you know, Rocket League, you know, everyone has like their own league. Right. And some of the sponsors are going to be the same, but it's still fractured within those communities. So I think information can be hard to find because there's 30 articles about the same thing.
Yes.
Right. And so it's just so what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of stuff out there. Not all of it's saturated, right?
Sure.
The information is very saturated, and there's a lot of bad and good information. And as of right now, I think people are having a hard time filtering through what those things are. So I think we've got that first step with Overwatch League, especially with that awareness aspect. That next step is kind of like, is that structure, right? Is that pipeline? It's that how do we maintain? Because everyone knows that esports is popular, but no one has been able to prove that they can maintain these revenues outside of like the big three, which is like Dota, Counter-Strike, and LoL, right?
And that's, you know, we got Coca-Cola, you know, and this is being recorded on Valentine's Day, the day of the opening of Season 2 for the Overwatch League, just for, you know, full disclosure.
That's why you were being so nice to me earlier, telling me how interesting I am.
Oh, of course, right? You know, big kiss up.
Yeah, there it is.
But you mentioned, especially, you know, we've talked about games, but you actually work with games. You know, I've seen your products firsthand, because you've been so kind and treated me to seeing those, and they've been, you know, incredible. And every time I recently was at like a couple museums, and they had something very similar. I'm like, I wonder if Boop made that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm so lucky. Like, just to start things out, I really appreciate my life, because my day job's boss, like, she is probably one of the most supportive when it comes to my esports career.
Sure.
She told me over the last month, so I work on commission, so it's a little easier for her to do, but like I don't have to, right? And they're not in like, I do business development for the company, so just kind of like a summary is I sell interactive technologies and games to theme parks, museums, and entertainment centers. And so for those at home that don't know, it's a lot of VR, it's a lot of AR, but it's a lot of like interactive human-centered input.
Sure.
You like wave at a camera and it waves back. You saw the stuff at the NFL museum. We do a lot of tables, but we are such a niche company, right? We only need 3 to 4 sales a year to like really prop us up for the year, because what we sell is expensive, admittedly.
Fair.
And so what's been super interesting is like I was the only biz dev person, but when I left for Contenders earlier this year, she was like, I want you to take 3 months. We will support you in any way. If you need, you know, if you need some hours, we'll give you those hours just so you can maintain, but you need to go for this. And because I was like nervous to tell them, I was like, I'm leaving for, you know, 5.5, 6 weeks. And they're like, so happy for me. And they're so nice. Hyper supportive. And so I just wanted to shout them out just for a second. But yeah, I'm so lucky to be able to go like to theme parks for work, and then write them off as a tax expense, and then go cast Overwatch Contenders and have a blast doing it. Right? Like I know how lucky I am. I just can't wait for kind of all of these things that I've been working on to all come together, because they're all like pretty related. Like because you know I'm still kind of breaking into that casting area. As you know, I was more well known for some shoulder content stuff back in the day. But now, like, I can't wait till like I can be like an adult in the world and do business and like talk about my own contracts and like use the stuff that I learned at Boulder Games, talking to Disney all the time, doing all this business development that I had done, and using that in the esports world. I'm like really excited about. And so gaming's been a part of my whole life, my day job, my casting. I wanted to be surrounded by it all the time, and I'm going to do as much as I can to make sure that keeps happening.
Is there a multiverse that you end up working with an org to further business development for them in esports? Is that a thing that you've pondered on? So
this is a so I go through cycles, man.
Okay.
And so we talked about this earlier on, because I was told for a very, very long time by almost everybody that's ever heard me cast and host that if I was going to make it in esports, it would be as a host.
Sure.
I actually thought it would be in business development as part of an org, right? That would be at this point kind of, this is before Contenders and actually a little bit before BGG, where, you know, it was like, that would be easier. It would be easier for me to get a gig as a biz dev person for Blizzard than something else. But there's a major difference between that sales aspect that if I can make it educational, and esports is easy to do that because a lot of business development in esports is kind of teaching people about it, why they should care. And that's really exciting to me. But there's something about, like I said, I was a tuba player back in the day, casting, that is honing a craft that's never going to be perfect, that is so exhilarating to me. Yeah. And so while I would say that like doing business development, to be completely open, is 100% my backup plan. And like my way out, because I think I do well in that field. But as of right now, I want to hone a craft, and I'm not there yet, and I'm not at a position where I feel like I'm at a place where I can stop. Right? So
yeah, I mean, you're on the skyrocket upwards, so why quit here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, obviously the goal is Overwatch League, right? But there's still a lot of stuff to do in terms of improvement that, you know, that's just like, I'm starting to learn now too, because I remember this learning an instrument. Some things just happen so fast, and there's just some things in my casting that I'm having such a hard time fixing right now. Right? Like something as simple as talking slower. Sure. I have to actively think about talking slower. It doesn't just happen. And that's been hard. Right? So, and the constant failure of, oh, I need to do this, can be very difficult, that you don't really get in like that business, you know, biz dev world.
That's fair.
Yeah. And when you're casting, you're putting yourself out there. Again, it's a craft, and it's like putting an artwork up in a gallery or playing a piece. It's, you're putting yourself out there, and when people, you know, like it or don't like it, it affects you, right? Yep. And so it's that's also something that, you know, I feel like I'm growing in. It's just handling that aspect of inherently at this point. And actually, one of the Overwatch League casters told me this too: is we want people to dislike certain casters, like certain casters, right? Because if everyone disliked or liked everybody, then there wouldn't be enough variety for a wider audience that Overwatch League is going for. And so, yeah, and so that's kind of what I think about all that, man. So I know I can be a little loquacious, but I get there.
Good word. Scrabble word right there. I must remember that. That and cantankerous. I love that word. We've been playing a lot of like Jackbox party games. There's love like this weird like rap battle game, and I'm just trying to fit
epic rap battles. Yes. I love it. Yeah,
trying to fit cantankerous on one of them. I keep forgetting, but I'm gonna have to try. Now, like you mentioned previously, you started in Hearthstone. Is that accurate? Or is there some backstory before that I'm not necessarily
That was the first time I casted, like on a mic in front of a camera.
So walk me through your now husband, correct?
Yeah.
Holds you up on a pedestal. Chris wants to do this. You get up there and you do it. From there, what happens?
So like I said earlier, I started working with the Clutch Gaming's team. And I had brought in, so I have you know Bo. Yeah. So I brought in Bo, who was an editor for 10 years in local news. And I was like, hey, this guy can do some of your like content for you, like some hype content, like to do some advertisements for Colorado Clutch, because they were, you know, taking some teams to 5 games but not winning. And so we did that. But by the time they actually like had us on and we were working with the team, I had casted some Overwatch after the Hearthstone thing because he liked the Hearthstone stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, and then I was kind of like GMing Colorado Clutch. Not really. I kind of just showed up and helped the kids like do stuff.
Sure.
And like be like, you guys need to eat. Got to drink water. Which is super important, actually. Yeah. That was something I learned in that situation. Was I remember when I was 17, like I did not take care of myself, and so after that, they folded. And Justin was like, hey, we're not going to do, of course you can cast some Overwatch, but we're not going to be hosting the team. There's really not a spot for you. But I know some people at Carbon Entertainment who used to do some league stuff and are looking to get into some Overwatch. And he sent an email out to Alex and Yulong, Alex's left guy, and they liked me, and they took the recommendation. And the very first broadcast I did with Carbon, I was actually on the only time I've ever appeared as an analyst. It was the very first time I ever appeared on a Carbon series. Back then, I was wearing, I can't believe I wore this. I was wearing a dinosaur button down and a silver bow tie.
I think I remember sifting through Carbon's YouTube and seeing that. I'm like, oh, look, it's Chris.
I would. Yeah, never gonna wear that again. But yeah, and so it was actually really interesting because they were obviously like, I think doing a favor for Justin at the time. Or maybe, I don't know, but I think it might have started at that. And then when I was on the analyst, like, I think they liked it. Something that I think I could be proud of is I think I have pretty good on-camera presence, especially in that kind of situation.
Sure.
And so I think I impressed them in that sense. They knew I wanted to be a caster, and they were like, well, before I went on an as list, they're like, hey, if you do a good job, it might be, we're definitely going to have you cast or do something, or maybe even host, because we had an established host and we weren't going to touch that at the time. And then we did the first Carbon series with me casting with Keystone and Alex Gilfrost. And one of my highlights ever was casting old school. Like, this is like old school Adam C9 against Shadowburn FaZe Clan.
Those are some oldies, yeah.
Yeah, some old games. But then after that, a really interesting situation happened to Carbon where they landed the Carbon series, like the first kind of like pre-contenders thing. And they, of course, they had ideas on what talent would be there. That would be ZP and Hex. And that for that first season, Monty and Doa like helped out. They went there. That's where I met all those guys for the first time and realized how awesome all of them were. And hashtag brown nosing. And then they didn't have a spot for any Carbon casters because the only on-air personality that they maintained was Alex, and he was hosting for that first Carbon series. But Yulong and Alex had an idea that they thought that some shoulder content would make Carbon look really good in terms of trying to win contenders, right? So I don't know where it came up, but Alex and I had a conversation. He was telling me what was going down, and we came up on a fact of, why don't we do a recap show? And we were like, okay, we can do a recap show of OCS. And so we started, and then I brought Bo back in, who's like my best friend. And, he edited the recap shows. We wrote the scripts together. And that first season was like, we wrote the show and we recorded, and it was all done in like a day because like they had to be done by Thursday morning. And I think the last game was done at Wednesday night. And so we had to like record and then edit and give it to Blizzard for approval within like a short a period of time, which I think really helped us in terms of like expectations of how some of this work goes. And Blizzard really liked the recap show, and that was awesome. And then so they actually maintained me for the Boop of the Week, and it was a recap show, and then the Boop of the Week, which was, I'm gonna have to go ahead and say it was Bo's idea. Yeah, and because the second he said it, I was like, of course, this is happening, right? And then Season 0 starts, and I do Boop of the Week recap and top 5 there. And the top 5s were the first time that I was highlighted on the Twitter, the Play Overwatch Twitter.
Sure.
And that's when like we started having a ton of fun with these scripts and stuff. Because we actually, at the time, we were like thinking about branding and what we wanted to do. And part of me wanted to be like, you know how your dad says a joke and then no one ever says that joke again? We wanted to be that for some of the Twitch memes. And so like we wanted it to be like, is this guy in on it? Is he trying too hard? Is this like a fellow kid situation, or is he funny? Like, it just kind of like maintained that midline the whole time. And I think we did actually a pretty good job. Because one of the greatest accomplishments before NA Contenders was, I think one of the top 10 clips of Season 0 is of something from the recap show, which I think is pretty difficult to do. It's when I said AKM's Widowmaker, he had too much aim and showed like 6 misses in a row. And that's when I was like, I think I love this.
I think we're onto something here.
Yeah, we're onto something. And then I like bungled the opportunity, dude. Like I was there with, like, my content was being shown at Contenders Finals. I was hanging out with everyone that could help me.
Sure.
Right. And I didn't realize the opportunity that I had, because at the time I was like, oh, I'm just doing shoulder content, not that big of a deal, right? Like, I'm bottom of the barrel for anything, but I totally could have made that something, right? And that was like a huge regret of mine. And so after that, there really wasn't any opportunities, and I had to say, all right, I got this awesome job at Boulder Games. I can go into maybe the business side of esports, or I can try again and kind of do it the right way, right? And because I was up there with Puckett with 40 followers. Yeah. Right. And so I was like, I was leaning towards quitting at the time, but I was working with Wawa's Boot Camp, another old school kind of group.
Very, very nice reference. That's an old
Yeah. Super old. And I had done a couple of their tournaments before, and they wanted Alex and I to cast another tournament. I was totally down. I was like, oh, this would be a great last one. I know these guys, super low pressure. And then Alex was like, there's this girl that wants to cast. She's pretty green, but I think she's gotten a lot better. And at first I was like, I don't know, Alex, there's an opportunity for us to show our stuff. And that girl was Ham. And I was like, finally, I was like, you know what? That's not like me to like actually say that. I love attention.
Sure.
But, at the same time, I got to be part of a team. And I met Ham that day. And after our first cast together, I swear to you, I went back home. I talked to John, my husband, and I went, I think she's the one.
I think she's right. That's the duo. I found her.
She is there. I was like, there is something that we did that I don't think I've ever done with anybody else, and that was super exciting. This is after like casting with a lot of other partners, and like it was pretty frustrating at the time. And then I finally met Ham, and then Ham introduced me to BGG. I started coming to BGG. That's where I met you.
Sure.
And through BGG, we did South American Contenders, which is really where I feel like I found my voice again. I kind of call it like a redemption arc, because I started at a place where I could have done something. If I just asked for help, I'm sure that anyone would have given it to me at the time, right? But I didn't, because I was like afraid to ask questions. I was afraid to ask support because I didn't know what to do. After BGG, like I learned exactly what that was like. And like how to kind of like live in this space and grind, right? It was kind of like the first time that I hardcore grinded since like season 0, right? And Ham is one of the biggest grinders I have ever seen in my life. Like I would never wake up at 3 a.m. for anybody else, right? And so like back then at the time, like that's what I would say. But after meeting Ham, it was like super fun to grind, right? To be able to do this with somebody else, and like even going over to Contenders, having someone so close and so awesome to share that experience with made the whole thing that much better. And I will always be indebted to Alex in so many ways, but he was the one that set us up, and he's a major reason why the both of us are where we are today.
Left guy's a puppet string puller, man. He's a behind the scenes guy now, but back in the day, he was the hotness. Everybody loved Left Guy, and I know that Twitch chat quite enjoyed the boops of the week. I thought they were quite entertaining.
They're going to come back. I really want them to come back. Yeah, well, I think they're just super easy to make. I don't know why I can't clip a 20-second clip and just say, and this is the boop of the week.
Sure.
And post on my Twitter, right? I don't know why. It's because it's the only thing people remember about me, right? So like, why am I not using it? It's like I'm stupid. I'm back at season 0, Chris, right?
I mean, it's also like it kind of falls under that weird branding thing of like it definitely does help to levy certain things, but I mean, obviously you don't want to lean on it too hard, because you don't want to be like pigeonholed into like, I'm the recap guy and I do recap stuff, but I also want to be a caster. You know what I mean? So like, I can definitely understand like why you might not want to, because it is something that people very much associate with you, and you're not, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're really not looking to pursue that specifically. Again, it's good content for your Twitter, but you're trying to really grind and pursue the casting and pushing that to the next level.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like it's not in terms of I don't want to do that. I don't want to do content because I did 100 Owl last season during Owl, and what that told me was I think there's some new content that can come out, right? It's just like skits and trailers. It's like heavy editing, right? And it can be very labor intensive.
Sure.
But I really want to kind of like push that stuff a little bit more, kind of like to fill it out, because that comedy stuff, like Tim and Eric is one of my favorite shows ever. And a lot of my comedy influences are just like that absurdist, like, Dave Grohl, and it's just like stupid, like,
Eric Andre-esque.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Like absurdity, and I want to see a little bit more of that kind of content, and I'm gonna try to make some more. Him and I are gonna try to make some more off of the $100 brand as well, because we made commercials for hand warmers. We did the Shape of Carpe 3 fish out of water as a trailer.
Did you guys do the sanitizer bit? I think I remember
Squirt the world.
Yeah,
hashtag squirt the world.
I think that Twitter channel and that YouTube is definitely underrated. So all you Overwatch fans out there that are looking for like some kind of Overwatch League related humor, definitely check out 100 Owl. It's very much influenced from the minds of the Boops of the Week. Very, very funny,
so
specific humor.
Yeah. If you're a stoner,
sure,
you will like it.
Sure,
that is 100% sure. No, there was so much fun. It's just like so fun to like do that kind of content too, because I think there's a lot of really good educational content that you're a part of, right? Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes.
And KT does some really great stuff, and there's a lot of educational stuff out there.
Sure.
And like I forget the guy who does it, but there's a guy who does like compilations that are really funny, and like that's where I want to go for my content in the future. And so Boop of the Week will find its place within that. For sure, because there needs to be serious content too. But as of right now, those the casting and getting that kind of channel back under control, so we can do the Winstons and do cast Overwatch like figure skating. Over
all
again.
Right, that's. I mean, I definitely remember the Winstons, but the casting Overwatch like it's figure skating. That's got to be that's got to be a new one that I haven't seen, haven't caught up with just yet. Yeah,
it's a blast from past from last season. It's a good recap. But yeah, I would probably, if I were to describe it, I'd probably say it's like the Onion. Those Onion videos? Yeah, that's kind of like that's what we were going for.
And I think that is a niche that has been kind of left open since like the Esports Express a long time ago had like a very much like a satire based like news site, and I really enjoyed it, and then it kind of got like weird and they closed.
There's one for board games. I'm like blanking on the name right now. That is hilarious. Like one of the articles was a group of friends plan to play D&D for the next 3 weeks. Oh, right? Like just like they plan, and the whole article is how they plan on playing, and like they never do. It's stuff like that. And so I really, really want to go, because like I had big dreams for $100 back in the day, and like I really wanted it to be like I had actually reached out to some people to like write spoof articles like that. Just like the Onion for Overwatch.
Sure.
And we'll get there again, but it's a little bit of a pipe dream right now.
I mean, you got big things working on right now, so it's a passion project, we'll say, right?
There it is. I love it.
Now, is there a spin-off like D&D series in esports that needs to happen? I feel like there is.
Well, there's already Critical Role. And Critical Role is super popular. The voice of McCree is the
yes, but I mean, like, I want like esports personalities. Like, who wouldn't like Monty, Day 9, I don't know, Artosis, and
Uber's got to be there.
Uber, like just like everybody in like the biggest names you could think of. I think that would be phenomenally funny, and I feel like that would branch down to like our tiny nest egg. And I feel like sooner or later, like, that'd be fun.
The other thing about esports personalities is we all love attention, right?
Yeah.
Like we all love being the loudest person in the room. And so like when you do like a acting out kind of game, it makes it so much better.
Yes.
Right? And so any game I've played, like there's an awesome game called Sheriff of Nottingham, which is all about lying. Okay. You're trying to sneak some things through, and you got to like you talk to a sheriff. The rule is you have to look the sheriff in the eyes and declare what you have, and you can lie about what you have. And the sheriff decides to open or close it. But I was playing with some of the casting talent. It was just so much fun. They were so much better than everyone else I had ever played with, right? Because everyone is so good at using their words. And I honestly, all of the casters are really, really intelligent. Like that's actually something that, like, thinking back on, where every single one of the casters that I met in season 0 were like an expert in something.
Sure.
Right. And that was really, really cool that, like, it wasn't just gaming, right? These are all men of culture. Right. And so, yeah, but I think it would be awesome to do some esports stuff, because I think the personalities would clash. and like not just clash, but create these kind of like moments of brilliance that are hard to find with just like a group of random people.
Yeah, like interviews only go so far until somebody, you know, stabs you in the back and takes your silver pence and steals your horse, you know. That's going to create some drama there, and you're going to see friendships made, you know, friendships break.
That's what games are about.
Exactly.
I always say to my husband that when we play like those alternate identity games where there's a lot of lying, that I think it's how we fight healthily. Like it's how we can like get mad at each other without like.
It's a weird like existential way to vent at each other.
It's cathartic, I think. It's cathartic, yeah. And so like if there's any tension for whatever reason because I didn't do laundry or something like that, I think a game's a really good way to break that tension.
I think games in general
that's
tend
not
to do
very
that.
healthy. Now that I say that.
Well, I mean, it's much better than, you know, bottling it up.
It's true.
You know,
it's true.
If you just want to go have at it at Smash or whatever it might be, Street Fighter 4, and just like, I'm gonna fireball you so many times because you didn't walk the dog.
Oh man, John is a spammer.
Is he a spammer?
For sure, he's a projectile spammer in fighting games. I hear PK fire one more time. I'm gonna just disable
these guys are the worst, man. Items on.
I know.
These guys.
I was just, so I was like, I had to prove a point. I was like, you got to turn items off because I hate RNG. RNG has never been something that's worked in my favor in my life, except one time on a cruise ship where I won $2,400 playing craps.
Hey,
and so, but I used all of my luck then. And so, like, items just represent that a lot for me. But like, I turned them off, and we only played him turn them off, and he was like, "Oh, I like items." I was like, "You like items? All right, let's play with items." And so we played.
I'll teach you why you shouldn't like items.
Yeah, and I got a Pokeball, and I forgot who was in it, but he died 2 times because of it.
It's like, all right, no more items.
Yeah, let's just go ahead. I think I know what you mean. Let's go ahead and play items off. It's like, you know, relationships are all about love.
And then everybody who's like, oh, you know, Melee needs to be a little bit more fun. I'm like, okay, if you want items, just play Peach. You can pull items out of the ground, and sometimes you get fun ones. You get a sword or a bomb, like,
and
cool.
Yeah, you get a bomb, and you don't realize it's in your hand and explodes.
Exactly, and then you die,
totally.
and then you feel bad.
Exactly.
RNG, baby. Back on the Overwatch train, you are the voice, I would say, of the most fun broadcast that I've been a part of. Well, you know, I'll be honest with you. You know what? Full disclosure here. A lot of people end up in mute land because it's hard for me to focus on, you know, the fun aspect of like Uber and casting this and that. And it is entertaining. It is, you know, and I get caught up in it. But I'm trying to like focus on the game, and like I don't really want to have to go back and watch the VOD, so I'm trying to get it done now, right? So like a lot of people end up in mute land. You and Ham, I can't end up in mute land. It's too fun.
I think that's a 50-50, and I don't blame the other half, to be completely honest with you. So like I appreciate that, man. That means a lot to me. And like I said something on another thing the other day where it's like, I can't believe that people listen to us on purpose, right? Like that just like boggles my mind.
Isn't that like you do bring information, you bring a lot of entertainment. Like there's a reason why people enjoy you guys. Like is that feel weird to you?
So, you know, this is actually a really deep conversation and something that I actually love talking about, because I think it kind of, well, let's talk about it first, and I can kind of talk about maybe like what it feels. So I think I would love to be an absolute expert at this game, right? And I do have, like, I'm such a broad thinker. Right. I don't know if you've ever noticed this about me, but I'm definitely like, let's go from macro to micro in terms of how we get there. And so like, I think very broadly about things, and I really want to sound smart. And I think a lot of things, particularly with play-by-play casters, is they tend to fill a lot of their casting with color, right? Because they want to sound smart, because they feel like they need to be looked at as
legitimized. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But I think what that does is just kind of add too many words. You've got a color caster, and you know there's appropriate places to add that color, but it's more about how to seamlessly do it in play-by-play rather than to actually like color.
Try to juggle too many things, and you can't focus on your lane.
Exactly. And so I think a lot of people struggle with like the fact of, I love that we're entertaining, right? I love that we bring a certain amount of energy, right? But I think the both of us, it's hard not to be like, we want to be that might not be exactly how we want to be perceived, right?
Okay, sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Even though we know that's how it's going to be, and we just need to accept it. And at the very beginning, I think we kind of struggled with that. Now we're kind of like, fuck you guys, we're ham and boob, right? But like back in the day, like I actually think you can tell it was like, we were trying to be like professionals, right? And what that entails, that came with that stress, and I think it hurt the product a little bit.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of like back and forth when it comes to that mentality of, I love being entertaining, but throughout my whole life, I've always been the host or, the guy who presents. I've been the entertaining one, and I know I'm good at that. I want to be I want someone to say that something that I'm like working on, like the talking slowly thing. Once someone's like, Chris, I could tell you're talking slower, I'm going to be like, oh my God, right? that like means a lot to me.
Yes.
And that's the type of stuff that like, I'm not hearing right now because I'm still working on it.
Sure.
Right. And so I'm sure you guys get it. It's like, there is that kind of balance of, I know we're entertaining and we can really lead into that, but I also want to offer something else. And we're not really hearing that part of it, if it's happening or not. Right. And either way. And so I appreciate, like, the reason why I appreciate you saying that is because it's like, it's hard, I think, for me sometimes to value that entertainment aspect, right, as something that is legitimate and not just like part of the process, right? And to understand that that is a skill that's also hard.
And that's exactly where I wanted to transition, where like, yes, you guys are like the token entertaining duo, right? But I think I mean, again, I'm not a caster. I've never really studied this. I've never even tried. I don't think I'd be very good, to be honest. But I think entertaining people is probably the hardest aspect. And I think you both at times give yourself a lot of non-credit. I backed myself in the corner in that sense, but I don't think you guys give yourself a lot of credit when it comes to like your in-game intelligence, right? I've worked with you, and you've like, there's very specifically, I have a visceral memory of, I think it was Karasuno in like the OD finals. They were playing on Oasis University, and we were bantering back and forth about, I like the Roadhog because I can pull people into the lower pit. That's effectively a kill. And you're like, no, I think Zarya is really important in this map. There's so many chokes. I think Grab's really important. And having high charge on this map is like just a game winner, like you hold. And I'm like, you sold me. I can't argue with that.
I remember that because I actually remember your voice changing, right? And be like, I think I'm right. Right? Like, because that was actually one of the first times I think I ever talked to you. And I was actually a little intimidated because I consider you like a big brain in this world, right? And so like,
Happy Valentine's Day.
I was like so afraid that like whatever I would say, like just be like, I'd sound stupid.
No.
Right. And that goes like with our old conversation. Like I wasn't even on cast. Right. This is just something I'm worried about in general. So like, I remember that. I remember that being like a really positive experience because that ended up being a whole awesome conversation with like a bunch of people from what I remember. And that was awesome. So that's cool, man.
Yeah, no, I've talked to both of you kind of privately, and you guys are smart and you're entertaining. And I think that's the hardest part, is getting people to like unmute the stream. Everybody has their opinions on casters, but I think you guys have a great foot forward in the synergy department. You're not kind of rotating around, trying to find the right pairing. Like, you guys gel, and you can tell. Twitch chat it's comforting. It's like a warm of chicken noodle soup. It's like a cozy blanket. Get to snuggle up with Ham and Boop and watch some Overwatch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think if I were to draw like a person that we're like really like, someone that I think we're kind of emulating in the league world is Kobe.
Sure.
And how like authentic I feel like Kobe is, right? And we love Overwatch. And if you've ever heard of Ham and I watching South American Contenders when we're not casting, it is absolutely hilarious, right? And so like all the sounds that Ham makes like on cast, he's making when we're watching too, right? And so like all those oohs and ahs, like we
very much so
freaking love this. Like,
if anything, you guys tone it down a little bit on broadcast, because it would just be like a non-verbal kind of guttural sound. All the time.
And it definitely almost fell off my chair just then. But like I think overall, like, I think what you nailed it when it comes to working with Ham is I feel that casting with her, right? And we have so much fun when we cast with each other, and we do such stupid things that like, I'm so glad I have a partner that, like, 'cause something I do is I'm going to go 100% in, even if I
Yes.
think it's wrong, because I need to know why it's wrong.
Exactly.
Right. And so when we do our bits, not all of them land, but like we're 100% in on these bits.
Sure.
Right. And we really commit to our style and what we do. And it's nice to hear that it's effective in that way,
Yes.
because it's you know, it's kind of like sometimes when your mom is like, "You're handsome." It's like,
But am I
"Mom."
though? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But in the end, it does none of that even really matters. Whatever
Yes.
people say on Twitch chat or Reddit or Twitter, whether it's positive or negative, doesn't matter, because what matters in the end is Ham and I want to reach a peak that I don't think we have reached yet.
Sure.
And it's all about getting there.
Of course, 100%. And you know what? I'd be remiss in not saying that I haven't heard the term grandma juice being used a couple times. In the
It's not even a real grandma.
No, but it's hilarious, and it's something that you've both kind of created and just ran with, and it's funny and people love it, and it's starting to
fatty
permeate.
chatty.
Exactly.
Yep. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
It's hard to hear that, it's hard to hear those kinds of things and like receive compliments, right? But
I'm very, ditto. Kindred spirits again.
Yeah.
I
But I
understand.
think, it's like one of my things where it's like people don't say these things for no reason,
Mm-hmm.
right? And instead of like focusing in on all that negative, like I think people just don't hear the positive sometimes.
Sure.
And it's good for us to kind of sit in it and know that, hey, like this is a good thing, right? And I'm so happy to be a part of it and entertain people like you, Volamel, because it really matters to me, and I know it matters to Ham to provide an entertaining experience and educational for the viewers, that they can take something out of, or that they'll remember one thing hopefully from this cast, that they'll be like, oh, Ham and Boop. They'll either shake their head or they'll laugh or they'll sigh, but they'll be saying our
It's
names.
effective.
So, yeah,
Exactly. It permeates.
Exactly. And so, but in the end, it's again all about doing the best we can and working hard.
Yeah, and that's where, it's something that I've taken away from a lot of my interviews, especially with like coaches and stuff, is learning when to be like the doting mother and like the hard father, right? Like just the kind of like push. You go a little bit harder. I don't think I need to push you guys. You know what I mean? Like I don't think I need to like push you two in terms of just like the feedback that I engage with you with, because I know Ham grinds and I know that you've just been doing this for literally ever. So I don't think I need to. I think it's the other way, and I think I need, like, you are smart, you are intelligent. Like, get out there, say like the weird quips, tie in that intel, like that game knowledge that I know you both have, but sometimes maybe it's, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't feel super confident in saying it because you feel like it's going to be wrong.
Yeah, I would say that's accurate.
Okay.
I think that's actually something that a lot of casters struggle with,
Sure.
just in general. One of the Overwatch League casters way back in the day said, if I were to give you one piece of advice, when you're on cast, you have to have an opinion.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't have an opinion, then it's not good information. Because when you're wrong about an opinion, you learn from that.
Exactly.
The audience learns from it. When you're right, you learn and the audience learns. But if you're kind of waffling, then and in maybe land, then no one's really getting anything, because everything might happen, right? And so again, like things like talking about what you didn't see or talking about why you were wrong are all like fine to do.
Sure.
I think it's just hard for us sometimes, especially those that are like working their way up right now, to believe that. Right, to believe that that's okay, because I think individually we all have to get there ourselves.
Yes.
Like in the end, and other people can tell you, but like I remember one time, like doing a cast, and on both sides, like it was the same day. It was the recap show. The European one I don't think was that great. In the chat didn't think it was that great.
Sure.
The NA one was awesome, right? But. And Twitch chat thought it was awesome, but then I had to realize the fact that, like, why am I catering content to other people when the reason why I think NA is awesome was because, like, Bo and I worked on it and it was ours. Yeah. Right. And that was the same thing with 100 Owls. So I think that's just kind of a process people have to go through. And I'd be lying to you if I'm done with that process.
I think I think everybody in any kind of creative sense has that, whether you're an artist, whether you're a writer, whether you're a performer, like, there is a level of anxiety of putting yourself out there, and you don't want to make an ass of yourself, you know, and that's the bottom line. But sometimes you just have to, you know. If you go back and read some of my old stuff, like there's some really cringy shit, man. Not gonna lie.
You go back and watch that FaZe Clan Cloud9 game. Holy mackerel! I said some bad things. But Colorcaster.
But you learn from it. You take stuff away from it.
Yeah, exactly. And we learn more from our failures than our successes.
Exactly.
10 times out of 10.
And it's so, like, cliche to say, but it's so true at the same time. And that's why people say it. And, like, that's another, like I don't know. I watched Oprah as a kid, guys. Come at me, okay?
Love Oprah.
It was an aha moment for me. Like, oh, like, when people say this stuff, and it's super cliche, like, it's true. And it makes sense. Yeah.
Well, also, I think something that I realized, the need to be an individual is really high.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So something that I personally am working on is, like, I can be extra sometimes, but, like, I can go one step too far a lot of the time. Right. Where I have a really good joke, but then I add one more line to it. Like, everyone laughed, and then I add another line,
and then it was just like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. And so, kind of like, everyone really wants to be the individual, but. Everything that we do in life is a combination of things that we know work, right? And then we build off of that.
Yes.
And the individual, I think, is created through that exploration process and how we handle certain situations. And so I think combined with, like, I'm trying to be funny, I'm trying to be, you know, noticed. And I'm talking about young casters here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be noticed. I'm trying to be funny with, I also have to be knowledgeable. That can be hard to just, like, think about and perform with. And so that's part of that growing process as a caster, is, like, reconciling that and knowing that I can do my thing. I'm going to get VOD reviews. Feedback is, like, don't be a sponge, be a filter, right? Not everyone gives good feedback.
Yeah.
And there's canned feedback too that people get all the time. And when you receive good feedback, you have to know, but in the end, like, you have to reconcile that with yourself, and that's a learning process, and we're all still going through that, and so many other aspects of our life that I think casting kind of, you know, is like, really, like, you really just can't care about what you know, like, what other people think outside of what you think of your product, right?
No, 100%.
That's hard.
That's life. You know,
man.
If you want, and this is something that I've learned kind of through osmosis of, like, or consuming content from coaches and other kind of esports and other kind of competitive facets. When you want to get better at something, you still have to follow those same axioms and say, you know what, I don't care if I'm in silver. It doesn't matter to me. I'm trying to get better. I don't care that I'm a support main and you think my champion's boring. I'm this is how I think I should be getting better. This is how my teacher, you know, says I should be doing this and this. Like, I don't care. Like, I just want to improve. And I think that's life, you know?
Yeah, I remember, like, being younger, and even still today, just being able to, like, it's like the pride gets in the way sometimes, right? It's so hard to admit that you need help, but I think in the end, I think people just underutilize their support systems immensely.
Of course.
Right? And there are people in this world that that would 100% support us that we would never even think about at this point, right? It's kind of like that spotlight effect, is whatever I do is the major thing, right? And so when I say something stupid, I might not hang out with those people again, even though those people don't remember. I remember the spotlight being on me, right? And so that's really tough. And there's a lot of working through that. And then there's that pride thing, like I said, where it's like admitting that you need help, right? It's so hard. And that's why I think people don't seek VOD reviews, and people don't seek, things that will tell them what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Right? It's a very fixed mindset, not really like a growth type of mindset. And again, I think the people who are better at being part of that growth mindset, wanting to constantly improve, I can tell you for a fact, every one of those Overwatch League casters are constantly trying to improve, right? And so I'm trying to take from them and being like, hey, you know, of anybody, you guys could be resting on your laurels right now, right? But you're not. And that is really, it makes me work harder, right? And and whoever's better at, you know, relinquishing that pride, asking for help. I had a VOD review with Doa the other day, and it was amazing, right? And I was so afraid to show any of those guys our stuff. But in the end, it didn't matter, like you said, right? Like, it was awesome. Doa was the information Doa gave us was phenomenal. right? And things that we like knew,
Sure.
kind of, but weren't ever told. And now that like someone told us, someone with that expertise told us, now we can improve. And I think people really avoid that VOD review like kind of feeling where it's like to be told that you're wrong can be tough, right? And a VOD review is all about like you're gonna be told pretty much everything that you did wrong.
Yeah.
Plus, you got to hear your own voice, and it's a
Nobody
it's a
likes
tough
doing that.
experience. But like we all have to understand that when we're doing that, it's not to prove that I'm better than you.
Yes.
If I'm VOD reviewing someone, or Doa doesn't VOD review me, Uber doesn't VOD review us to prove that they're better than us. They truly want to create a pipeline of casters, right? Because they get an opportunity to do that now, especially with Overwatch League, right?
Exactly.
Like first of its kind type of situation. And I really like they are not giving this advice to bring down other people. It really, every review I've ever had with anyone so far has really brought me up in the end. And I went into each one of them expecting to get eviscerated. And a couple times I did.
Sure.
But it's still at the end, I actually didn't know that I was doing that stuff wrong.
Exactly.
I had just been avoiding being told that for so long that I waited until the last minute to actually ask, right? And so that's kind of like heed my warning. Get those VOD reviews done. Have people read your articles, right?
Yes.
Like
have somebody watch your replays, you know, get the coaching.
Even the artists that work at Boulder Games, they'll be like, it's not finished yet. And it's like, well, we got to kind of see the progress, right? It's part of this game, right? Like if we wait too long and it's not good, then the whole thing's delayed, right?
Yeah.
And people hold like these things so close because they're made to be judged, right? And so it's all about just being like, all right, let's do it, right? Here's my painting. And if you're ever in a critique with anybody, this is like my biggest pet peeve, and on a lighter note, don't tell me what's wrong with it before I see it, right? So like, why do people do that? It's super frustrating. Like, oh, this painting, I used the wrong blue and this line isn't good. It's like, okay,
I
dude.
don't care. There's probably so many other fundamental things that we can talk about, like I was lagging and, you know, I didn't have the right mouse. Like, those are all excuses. Let's be honest with ourselves, okay? Excuses. That's what they are. We're just trying to cushion the blow. We're setting up the pillows. You know, please do not end my life. I'm falling. You know, I'm giving you the opportunity to catch me, and I have to start disking out, you know, cushions to soften the blow there. And
sometimes it takes rock bottom to get there, but at least you got there, right?
Exactly. That's some of the times, like, that's the crossroads event for a lot of people, is like you haven't done anything in a long time, you don't feel good about it. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna stay and improve, or are you gonna leave?
Yeah. And the other like really interesting thing too is when you're rising through the ranks in like these community places, it's really easy to see where you are, like compared to everyone else at BGG, right? But when you get into like a higher level, I actually can draw latent kind of conversation when I was a tuba player, right? I was very good. I was very good at the tuba. First time anyone's ever heard anyone say that in that kind of way. But I was pretty highly ranked in the state, and then I realized, like, after I went to college, everyone in my studio was highly ranked in their state, right? That I wasn't special, and I had to like develop that once again. And that's been, you know, when you're coming up through these ranks, it's all about, sometimes all you can do is compare yourselves with other people and what the work that they're doing or what gigs they're landing. Why am I not getting that gig? Why did I get that gig? And why didn't they? Right? But again, I'm just trying to say that it's like there's so much comparing against other people that can be really stressful, but in the end, those other people don't matter.
No.
Right? It is all about that product and how you get that product to its best pristine position, and that roadmap is what you take, not these other roadmaps that might happen. There are similar things like BGG that can help you through, but we're going to help you in your own way, right? But in the end, we're not going to do your work for you either. So
get out there and get it.
Ask for help, please. There's a lot of help available. I know every Contenders caster would probably VOD review anybody at this point in any region. And so just reach out. If you're looking to be a caster, that's a really great first step.
Yeah, ask, you know, you mentioned, you know, that first step for addicts. And I'm trying to think of a witty way to talk about how we're just addicted to our own ego, because we are in the spotlight, right? We are trying to put ourselves out there, but we don't want to put anything bad out, right? So we are kind of just in this vicious cycle of wanting to produce, but we don't want to produce bad, and then we don't. And then we go back to wanting to produce, and then, you know, you have to break away from that. Just start building those good habits. And I think that's any coach, any teacher, anybody who's seasoned will tell you, like,
yeah,
you have to start small.
Do you know who's actually really good at it on Netflix is Marie Kondo. So like this is that tidying up show. So
Yeah.
I was watching it and I realized that a lot of people don't clean because they're anxious about doing it wrong. Right. But she comes in and just doesn't care. Right. It's like she's so welcoming and supportive that there's no shame involved. And I think that shame is such a driving factor for a lot of people. And you don't have to be shameful about asking for help. Right.
Yeah.
Needing help is not something to be shameful of. It's not weakness. It's not nothing. I actually think it's admitting that you're wrong, I think, is one of the bravest things that people can do.
Yes.
And so
and that's something that everybody at some point, I think, well, I mean, I guess not everybody, but I think most people tend to, like, there's a moment where you're just like, you know what? I'm okay. It's okay with being wrong.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being wrong. If anything, it's good.
Yes. Yes. Psychology, man. I love talking about that kind of stuff. So,
and as we talk about it, it makes a lot more sense why you play at, like, fighting games. You're very much like the unattainable Daigo goal. You're like, God, I want to climb that ladder so bad.
My mom is Korean. Going to put that out there, and I have been grounded for a B+ and an A- in my life. So like I have a little bit of that, but the other thing I think about fighting games that I learned in the end, one of my favorite things to do, because I had a really hard time playing team sports growing up.
Sure,
I got kicked off of my tennis team, and so like because I threw my racket at my partner. Anyway, so I like only do individual sports, and part of it is like that mental game, right? Is can I break you, right? Because if I can get you here, like the rest,
everything else crumbles.
Yeah, so I got really good at talking trash. Back in the day, and I was kind of like the villain of a lot of the things that we played.
Sure.
Back in the day, but I think that's why I like fighting games so much. Is like the villain is is an accepted part of doing that, and getting into another person's head and tilting them is just like it's a strategy that people use, right? It's we see it in Overwatch sometimes.
Not as much as I'd like, but yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, I think a Sombra can tilt the team pretty hard.
Oh, for sure, yes. Very much
and so and like, God, like going back into those like individual events, like that feeling, just like that one-on-one is just like so exhilarating. I don't know what it is about it. But then I realized that like I was like too emotional and it was like unhealthy. So I had to like take a break. And then I had to reform myself a little bit. And then I started playing team games, and I was so PMA at that point. It was so weird. It's like when I play fighting games, all I do is trash talk. Even my husband, poor guy, right? Like, I'll be like, "What do I? Is that? I hear button mashing. Are
you struggling?
Okay. Yeah,
Get out of the corner! Come on! Yeah, don't throw me again! Don't do it! No.
Time's running out for you to do something useful.
Yeah.
One of my favorites. And so like, that's kind of. I'm a terrible person and also a great one, I guess.
Yeah. Just don't meet Boop in a competitive environment, because he will coach you on the fly and you will hate it. I can guarantee.
Oh yeah, it's actually something I should probably look at. Like I am way too competitive. Way too competitive. My sister, even when I was younger, I like the state test in 6th grade. I took my sister's 7 years older than me. I took my sister's other test 7 years older than mine and compared them against mine, and be like, I'm smarter than you at math. It's like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing that? Right? I know I might be 10.
Sure.
Right? But what am I doing? Why am I throwing my racket at my friend? Right? Like, what is that? Why can't I play racquetball?
We're young. What do we know, right?
Exactly.
What do we know?
Exactly. We're getting there. We're both close to 30, man.
Wow, don't remind me, man. When I turned 25, my parents were like, "Well, you're quarter of a century old. How's that feel?" I'm like, "Oh."
I got a little scared the other day that I'm turning 29 in August. And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna be 30. It's happening."
30's not that old though.
Everyone seems to have like a nice resurgence and like parties hard at 30 again, and like
I feel like every 10 years it's like, it's a mini, like, what do you call it when you just like have a weird yearning to be in the youth again?
Yeah, I don't know, but I know exactly what you're saying.
You know what I mean.
I've seen it. It's like a midlife crisis.
Yes, that's exactly what I was meant. Yeah.
Quarter life crisis, we'll say. But like for the first time in my life, I'm realizing I don't get what the kids are listening to.
Oh my God,
right?
dude.
And I'm like separated from what they consider entertainment, right? And I have to learn now, and that's like been kind of hard to think about.
Real talk, and if you're if you don't want to hear two old people rant and rave about things that you might enjoy and may kill, you know, spoiler warning, just saying. But I had I think it was me, Mushu Beef, and Kenobi, two very prominent people in the BGG community. We were talking about like how I hate just like Twitch chat and like interweaving with like how we use language.
Oh yeah, like how I say pogger sometimes.
Yeah. I'm just like, it's at some points it is endearing because it does encapsulate a lot of things. Where it'd be a lot easier just to say the meme, right? Like Pog or PogChamp or Kappa, or the new one that I keep hearing and that I've kind of like enjoyed a little bit is like Papega, right? It's just like this frog without a brain, and it just represents like just the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Like you're absolutely so stupid for doing it. Papega, right? It's funny. But like some of them, I'm just like, you have to like explain to me why you're talking like this, because I don't get it.
Does a great example of me not getting it sometimes, right? Where I'll see it everywhere, and I'm like the beautiful mind numbers are happening,
and I'm just like trying to figure like, why?
Yeah, and then I'm like, am I not funny?
Yeah.
Right. It's like, am I not just am I stupid? Right. But then again, I just like, there are just like some shows that stand the test of time. I Love Lucy is funny to everybody.
Yeah.
Right. But there are also some shows that we're never going to watch again, right? And just not for us. And I think that Twitch chat can represent both of those things.
Very much so. Like that, it's a very interesting culture. I don't hate it by any means.
It's amazing to me that
it's weird.
Culture is used in terms of like that so frequently, because it's true.
Yes.
There really is a culture, and it can be studied, right? And I'd be interested because like I'm sure someone's doing it already, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Real talk, this is like modern day hieroglyphics.
Yeah,
very much so.
Totally.
Like pictures representing like language.
So like, and I'm gonna sound so like even like Discord, where I'll see someone typing, and then like they'll have bolded and then italicized and like like letters and stuff like that, and I'm like, I had to Google how to
italicize. How do I do the crab emo? I want to be cool with the kids.
I know, right? And it's like, and then I see like a prod the other day, like the whole thing is there, and it took her like 2 seconds to type.
I'm like,
and I'm like, I'm a fast typer. I could do 90 to 100 words per minute, right? Anyone, 25 and older should, or 20, I guess 30 and younger. But at the same time, I was like also so impressed, right? It was like for the first time in my life, I was like, good job, young lad, right? Like, I'm gonna give you this job because I'm not gonna learn. Right? Because I think like when you like get to like 30s and a little bit later, you start learning that you're not the best at this thing.
No, not anymore. And, like, you're just completely divorced from the cool pop culture references. I'm just like, no, I don't know the new album from this guy and the joke he made. Like, I don't. I haven't seen the newest movie, guys. I'm old. I watch Overwatch.
And then we're like, oh, Psychonauts, great game. And then they're like, what's Psychonauts?
What's that?
What's a USB?
Floppy disks?
What's a floppy disk?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Optical drives? What are those?
So weird, dude.
Yeah,
it's so weird. So actually, in education, there's actually a term for this. I think you might find this interesting. So there's 3 people: technology foreigners, technology technology nomads, and technology natives. And so for the internet, or technology foreigners, they're people who never grew up with technology and are learning it that way. Technology nomads are us, where we started without technology and then grew up with technology. So we created a lot of the technology that the technology natives have always known. Right. And that they just know technology and how to use it.
It is weird to see like 7-year-olds just operate an iPad at like peak efficiency. They're just like flick, here's my phone. Like,
yeah, totally. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wild.
You don't even have to tell them. You just hand it to them. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers. And that's what's scary to me when it comes to like esports. And I'm just like, there are like 12-year-olds that are like absolutely sick at these games.
Like when you hear of these like 14 to 17-year-old contenders players, and then you're like, okay, cool. Well, I'm almost 30, and
I can't hit the broadside of the barn.
Yeah, if I'm a Cree, I'm doing good if I hit the environment. Right. And so like, and it's like, this kid's 14 and way better than me at like so many aspects of my life. Right. It, like, I can't help but like hate myself just for a second.
It's so like, It's so interesting because at some point somebody probably thought that about us. Where they're just like, what do you mean run C drive? What is that?
I know.
What is a disk fragment? Like what?
D-frag?
My cookies.
Ask Chiefs?
Yeah. Oh, that's a throwback.
Yeah, what's Ask Chiefs?
Now, again, this is filmed on Valentine's Day. It should be out in a couple days. I'll probably publish this shortly after. Hopefully, we'll see. But, today is the season start of the Overwatch League. And to kind of close it out, I wanted to get your take on this. What are some of your goals for Overwatch? What are some of the teams that you're following? What do you think of this season? What do you want to happen? Kind of wrap us up with the Overwatches.
Cool. Well, I am hyped for Overwatch League.
Sure.
I cannot. It's like I'm going and seeing like my old summer camp friend again.
Yeah.
Right. where we got like super close really fast and they were just gone.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And now it's time to go to camp again, and I get to see all these people because for some reason we never talked outside of camp.
Right? Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I was casting, so I got to like inherently through like my gigs like keep up with what's going on, but there's something about. One, I miss the talent. I miss the talent in terms of players and casters.
Sure.
Right? Like, I really, really miss just seeing them for some reason. And then I'm also really excited for this season because my Fusion are looking pretty good. So, Joseph, how much of a Fusion fan.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And you know what? Just let me throw you a bone here because I was very much happy that the London Spitfire did win the finals. That was, the team that I had going into it. Not actually the team I had going into it. I actually thought they were going to get knocked out very early, but, at the event, I was rooting for the London Spitfire. Chris over here at Boop was very much the Philadelphia fan. And I will say, match 1, I do have Philadelphia winning. So
oh, awesome.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. I have I can't figure out if I want to place them anywhere from 2 to 10 on my power.
They
is my thing.
Yes, they can vary, I will say.
Okay, but the Fusion have always been streaky.
Yes.
Right? And roster consistency isn't necessarily how you stop being streaky.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It 100% can help.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But you have to show that. It's like they haven't played any games. It's hard to see if that consistency is going to help with consistency roster. It's going to help with the consistency in games. Because I think they're in a very interesting position in the Atlantic Division, which I think is miles stronger than the Pacific Division, at least at the top. And the reason why I say that is because, you've got London and New York, right? And you got Philly, a lot of people at 3. They're kind of like the gatekeeper to the top 2. And I think for stage 1, what I'm looking for is, are we going to talk about Philly like we talk about New York or London? Are we going to talk as in top 3, like that's how we talk about them? Or are we going to talk about them like, the Shock or, those people that might be the new Philly Fusion for this season, right? And that's, I think, the most exhilarating storyline for me with this team is the reason why I started liking him is because they look like the Little Rascals, right? There was no DC team at the time, and
Sure.
that's where I'm from. And then I had to get on board with the team, and then I saw Fraggy get up there, and I saw that team, and I'm like, these guys are funny. I don't know why I think that, but I like them, and I also love the color orange, right?
Yeah.
And so I went to stage 1, week 3, and I saw that Philly game, the upset. And and that was it for me. I saw them in person. Yeah, I've been a Shadowburn fan for a very, very long time before the season started.
Okay.
Through a lot of that contender stuff.
Yeah, it's full circle.
Yeah, and then they were just so that team that could win any game, could also lose
any game.
So
exactly.
You get invested in every game they played, and that was makes finals, but also the only team to go twice to Game 5 was Shanghai.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of how my brain works and how I kind of do my work. Right? It's just peaks, right? It's they're on the edges. They're not really ever here. They're either just losing or winning. Junkertown, they're losing.
Yeah.
Right? Against New York Excelsior, they won, and that's great.
Exactly.
But that's what I'm looking forward to this season. And my goal is to kind of see analytically what's causing just like inconsistency in general
Yeah.
within teams, because I think you could talk about rosters in that sense, but I wonder if there's like certain like I'm starting to get really interested in like certain play styles of like how certain people play divas.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
And how I think Diva is like the best example of that. Tracer is another really good example of 3 distinct play styles on how those play styles combined with another person's play styles create inconsistency, and how the coaching kind of goes along with that. I'm really interested to see.
See, like, you're big brain.
I tried
You're
broad though.
man.
See, that's all super broad, right? And
Overwatch is a game that does have a lot of specifics, so sometimes it's good to be broad. Sometimes it's good to, you know,
summarizing and simplifying is just as good sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of like expansion teams, you know, I think I'm kind of on board with everybody else, right? We don't have anything other than what the community has written. We've got the Titans, which that logo is growing on me for some reason. When I first saw it,
weirdly enough, yeah, I'm not a fan off the start, but yeah, I have to say.
The more I look at it, I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know why. Nothing has changed in the logo.
No.
You know, and then the Spark getting some Spark Charge. I always get those two confused. Getting a ton of hype at the moment as well. Gushue.
That's a tough one.
Work, man.
I'm not sure. I don't know if I'll see playtime, but we'll see. I'll be happy if he comes out and they look great. I'll be more than
eventually.
Yes,
everyone will get that playtime. Right? I don't think anybody should mess with their rosters for the first 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh God, please stop.
Right? But I think that's probably going to happen, because I do think we're going to be living in a world with, I'm assuming here, just based off of like what I see in other sports.
Sure.
The teams with the most consistency, the New Yorks, like playoff London, are going to be better, and they're going to be the ones that we see on top of the screen. And then the ones that I think the best GOATS teams are going to be the ones at the top as well. And so I'm not quite sure how Philly's GOATS is going to be. I'm kind of like on Monty's side on that, where it could be good, right? But it might not be. It's not like as solid as some of these other teams. And so I'm also, I think, like everyone else, like really waiting to see what comp is going to be the thing that challenges GOATS.
Exactly.
In the end, because we've tried so many things so far, and
it's a tough one to kill. That's a tough beast.
It wins the war of attrition like 8 times out of 10, 6 times out of 10, right? But that's still over 50%. I like those odds.
Yeah, it'll be tough. I'll be interested to see exactly what the game looks like, because I've heard some interesting looks from a few teams. We'll see. Obviously, this will be out afterwards.
So we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
One thing I am going to miss about GOATS, though, just as a caster, and I think as a viewing experience, is the fact that everything takes place on screen.
Yes.
Right? Because I know that was like part of Dive's problem, right? In terms of viewing experience, is there's just so much that was happening that wasn't what you were looking at.
Yep.
Right? And with GOATS, that wasn't the case. You saw everything.
Yep.
And I am going to miss that a little bit. But I think like the best part about it is, if you weren't familiar with it at the beginning of the season, any region of Contenders, you're familiar with it now.
Yes.
And I think GOATS is such a great kind of learning tool to understand Dive and to understand other like pick comps and crossfires and, you know, double sniper. GOATS is such a great kind of starting point to understand team comps in general, that I think because of GOATS, the overall audience might be more attuned to what's happening now, because we've got so much of one thing. It's time for a change. Now we can go on that journey together with the audience. I'm learning what these other comps are, and that's really exciting too.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, not to stretch this out any longer, because I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I think you bring up a really interesting point that I think Sideshow is the first to kind of pen, is the idea that, you know, Dive taught us something and GOATS is going to teach us something, and this next meta, whatever it may be, if it's a hybrid, if there is like a very set meta game, that's going to teach us something as well. And it just feels like a consistent change and level up, that now we're very focused around each individual ability, and GOATS was very much a resource battle.
Zarya Bubbles, very good example of that.
Yes,
right?
Yes. Even the smallest displacement causes resources to be used faster, and pressure from this angle.
Amp it up, and how important that is, right? Like I could write a dissertation on amp it up in GOATS, right? It's like Oh man, I don't know what it is about it, but I get really excited about about that particular version because how Lucio's manage that resource, right, is crucial on whether you're defending or attacking a point, or if you're seeding or giving space, or if you're gonna get a diva bomb.
Yeah.
Right. We all remember Elk's vertical boop on Numbani, or was it Hollywood? That was nuts, and we actually got a good angle of it too, and that was like. And that's the other thing with Lucio, too. It's just like Boop provides so much displacement. So easy to give it credit once it gets that environmental kill. But it is...
Even the slightest.
Yeah, it has made teams not get on the payload before. It has made teams die from self-destructs. It has made teams just like lose the high ground. A gravity tragedy, right? And so,
gravity tragedy.
And so, like, that's the type of stuff that I find super interesting, like the micro, as I get from broad. And, like, now, like, I know Amp It Up's important. Now, what is the broadness of that? That's kind of how, like, my brain works. And Goats did teach us that, taught us about cooldowns, taught us about team play and communication and comms and how important that is. And that's all just going to carry over into the next thing. So I'm actually really excited to see Goats against other comps, right? Because I think the most boring part of it was that we're always seeing Goats versus Goats.
Yes,
I'm totally cool. I'm totally cool with Goats versus something else.
Some weird look that people are going to try and beat it with. You know, are they going to be able to do that? Do they know the answer to the weird problem that they're being posed?
Sombra Anna got popular in Contenders there for a hot minute, right? And so people are still trying to figure it out, but you practice Goats for so long. You've all been practicing Goats for so long. We're going to see a ton of it at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
But it's almost impossible to kind of predict what that meta is going to be at this point.
Trust me, I've heard some weird looks coming from Contenders, so season 1 2019 is going to be interesting.
The weirdest one I've heard is quad support. Have you heard that one yet?
I've seen that. We actually saw that a little bit in China. I'm hearing not as weird, not like stacking roles, but very much exploration into a lot of characters that we might not have been used to seeing as much of. Not as much as like Torb Symmetra-esque things, but a lot of
the Roadhogs, the Genjis.
Yeah, you are like seeing some Roadhog. You're seeing a lot of different picks that people are exploring to beat Goats.
I think that Wrecking Ball might be a pretty popular pick one day, especially after those armor changes, right? And so and the shield changes, and he's a main tank that is like hyper mobile.
Yes.
That can scout and do everything like Sombra can, right? And so outside of just being stealth infinitely. And so I see Wrecking Ball making an appearance for sure. I think we'll definitely see variety on assault and control.
Yeah.
And escort for sure. We'll see quad DPS on escort, especially on Route 66. Yeah. Right. And so we'll see that again. But a lot of those teams, like, it's funny because, like, we want a Goats killer, but, like, is a Goats killer something like on point A, we play this, on point B, we play Goats, on point C, we might switch, right? Is that what we want? Is that what we want Overwatch to be?
I think that's Overwatch. I think that's ideally what I think the developers would like it to be. Very fluid. Each point is a different look. It's not just very rigid. Yeah. You play this across the game.
I agree, because they wouldn't let you switch characters if it's something they didn't want you to do.
Exactly, and that's been something that's a game mechanic that I think we're finally starting to master at the professional level. I think we're finally learning that there are well, I don't know. We'll see how much Diva's played.
So actually, that was actually one of the most interesting things that we saw, I think, at the end of NA Contenders was the fact that teams, like, it's like one of those things, I think, where Diva has just been such a staple of our meta that we couldn't like
imagine a game without her.
Yeah, she just wasn't the one we thought of switching out, right? Like Reinhardt, that's an easier switch out for some reason.
Sure.
Right? But all of a sudden, Divas were getting switched out all the time near the end of NA Contenders for May, for the double tank, for anyone that, because Man and Doomfist can both kind of function as off tanks,
in a way,
if you play them well. And so that was really, really cool. And so now that teams, I think we're okay with not having a Diva. I think we'll see a little bit more exploration from that,
especially with the nudge from Blizzard, like, hey, she's not as good anymore. We have nerfed a couple things about her that, will incentivize you to still play her, because her kit is still very, very good, but it is more punishing. Like, if you're not necessarily super good at it, you can find success elsewhere, and that's good.
Yeah, Defense Matrix is one of those abilities that will forever be hard to balance because it'll either be absolute garbage or too overpowered.
Yes.
Right? That's what I'm really afraid of when it comes to stealth characters in general in games, is that same kind of thing.
That's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, we can save that one offline. But yeah, and so I'm just like I think again what Goats did too is it would kind of force teams to be okay potentially with adjusting.
Yes.
And we'll see the ones that aren't. And so I'm actually really excited to see like if a team is super, like Monty said it in his top like his rankings, where a lot of these people who might be in the 10s to 15s, if it's dive that we're seeing in the second half, they're going to be
could be completely flipped on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Even some on the lower end could potentially pop up based on the meta, right? And it's exciting. We'll see today. I'm expecting to see some goats. We'll figure it out.
I think that's some safe expectations. I think those are safe expectations.
If I was a coach, that's what I'd have my team to do too.
I mean, it's what you practice, you know.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not going to have you sight read a new piece of music at your concert.
Exactly, at states. You know? That's a whole nother like avenue of competition that we don't have to participate in if we don't want to. We can just play what we're good at and be graded on it. We should do that, right?
Yeah. I am a little worried about May though. I've been seeing her a lot. And like not in terms of like balance.
Sure.
One thing about May and Sombra in terms of like character design that I always worry about is if it's good for the game for Sombra and May to be that ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Right. And so because of how like May was made to be frustrating.
Yes.
They would not have made her like stand still to shoot you in the face. Right. You have to like look at her in the eyes after you're frozen and then die. Right, like they did that on purpose, but at the same time, is like, are those kids? Torbjorn, I think, is in that same situation. Symmetra too is if Symmetra finds herself in a place where she's in the meta, is that good for the game just in general, right? And that's kind of like that's what I mean by that. And so May has always found her way to sneak into some comps. Sombra, I think, is the #1 example of that. Whenever a new
she's a toughie.
Whenever a new patch comes out, she completely drops, and eventually she comes right back in. EMP is just such a good way to win a round too. Oh yeah, right?
Just and like so, you all don't get to play the game anymore. We win.
Yeah, all you have is aim right now, and your left clicks, and some of you don't even like Lucio. You can't even do anything really.
No,
when
all your good parts are gone. You can maybe get some shots, but.
And that's like, if I were to say my worries for like Overwatch League or the meta, that's definitely what it is, because we're going to find something that's going to be a GOATS killer. And if it's a GOATS killer, it's going to be really good. Right.
And that'll be the new thing.
And it'll be the new thing, just like Beyblade was. And it's so funny how like recency bias has taken over, because I hated Beyblade back in the day. And now all of a sudden I'm like, I'd take Beyblade Black, but I don't think I would. Like if I were to see it, right, I'm not sure it was like the best meta. And so
not a lot
the
of
wombo combos are the wombo combo metas are cool. But Dragaton got hyper frustrating there for a second. Oh yeah. Right? Like when Hanzo was super good. Like that to me is more frustrating than I ever got with Goats.
Yeah.
And so
Goats can be kind of chessy in a way, but with you know, well, yeah, I think Goats can be in the mirror can be very chess-like. There's lots of like nuance.
There's like I think there's like respect to the comp because it's obviously so good.
Sure.
Right? And then like looking back at Hanzo, where you're like, oh come on, right? Those Stormbow changes.
Yeah, a bit pushed, as we say.
Yeah, and so like I don't want that. I would rather have Goats for a little longer than that.
Than some absurdity,
the majority of the season.
Like old Doomfist, like big hitbox Doomfist.
Right? Man, there's something that's like hyper oppressive, right? Like old Sombra on Route 66 or Temple of Anubis, right? Like that kind of frustrating, and that in my opinion is more worrisome in terms of
unhealthy.
But I am exactly, because I am excited for the season. I'm excited for these team comp changes. I'm excited to watch Owl, and I like seeing how it might not work is honestly I think part of the excitement.
Yeah, it's a big question mark, you know. How are the teams going to play? What are they going to play? How are things going to shake out?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely want it to work.
Of course. I don't think we'd be here if we didn't.
Yeah, is my favorite thing. Sure. But it's but I think like to not have concerns would be
worrisome
would mean to me that you that you didn't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? about it, because even if your concerns are wrong or misplaced, at least you cared or are aware, right? That's kind of like where I am with that.
Yeah. And that's I think that's a good place to cap it off, because I think we have, I don't know, pre-show should be starting sometime soon, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you guys have a Civ game to play and some potato chips to eat and then some Owl to watch. And I think I'll probably be joining you in that in a way I'll be joining you in the audience, right? The figurative audience. But you know,
we're starting off with the match. So,
the match, the
I'm
finals.
excited to see it. And also, Krillin is smaller than Prophet. Can you believe that? That's nuts.
he's that's another story that I'm very closely following, because I don't know if I don't think it's going to be another Joe Next situation, but again, you don't draft a rookie into the league without being good.
Oh, actually, before we start, what new player, like what character in general that we might be seeing, like, because something that you said, like Jonak on that Zenyatta, like,
sure, are
we going to see? In your opinion, what character has elevated its like skill tier based on the new people that are in there? Because I actually expect some pretty phenomenal Zenyatta play from a lot of teams.
Yes,
like I think there are a lot of really good Zenyatas in the league.
Maybe it'd probably be a flex tank. I think that's been.
I think Zarya would be a good answer.
Yeah,
there.
Zarya, Diva. DPS is always kind of very much in the forefront. That it gets kind of you do see very standout people, but it's very easy to kind of see that.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, there's still some new Zenyatas that need to make it. Like, yes, I think Alarm, I think, is the one that we're all thinking of right now.
Sure.
That dude is good. And Apply's really good, too. And so we'll, I think Jonak is still probably he's the best Zenyatta until he's not the best Zenyatta, in my opinion. But his competition, I think, is a little bit closer. I think the Zenyatta matchups this season are going to be hype. Yeah. Like support, I think the supports in general have all gotten a little bit better, and so like I'm really excited to see those support lineups mix it up too.
It's gonna be very interesting. And you know, Owl, is this something you're kind of chasing after in a way? Is this the end goal almost?
Of course. Overwatch League is the dream. 100%, 1,000% yes, and everything that I want to do is how, you know, success is not like where you are is not necessarily determinative of success, but Overwatch League is definitely the goal. It is you know where I've written down like in 2 years where I want to be, and so I would love for it to be faster than 2 years. It'd be awesome, but that's definitely where I want to be in the end, and just be someone who is helping the community at large in terms of casting as well, like helping with that funnel, helping the educational aspect of it. I'd love to be involved in collegiate esports at some point too, and helping develop those programs. That would be awesome. But those are super future goals. But I think near future, Overwatch League, definitely. I think super near future, I'd love to cast one of the showdowns, one of the lands for North America. I think that's like the coolest, most recent thing that we could go for.
Yes.
And so that's kind of that's what I'm looking at right now. I wonder. Actually, I think I can say that. So Ham and I are coming back for Contenders next season too.
Wonderful, good.
And so we're going to be looking at that as well. So
very cool.
We're super excited.
Awesome. And you know, again, with the interviews, this is not about me, it's about you. So if there's any people you want to shout out, the last kind of 5 minutes or so are yours to do whatever you want with. I don't care if you say butts for 5 minutes straight or you sing. So again, your spotlight.
Yeah, I am I'm gonna take this a little sad, Joe. I think you know what it's about to do. I wanna dedicate this thing to my dog Oslo, who passed just recently, very recently actually. Was suffering through some cancer, and eventually the cancer did win. And it's been rough, but I wanted to, you know, I wanted to give her a little bit of a memory and a shout out because she is one of the best dogs I have ever had, and she appears as a barking animal in a lot of my content on the side. And so definitely that. And then I definitely wanted to, you know, happy Valentine's Day. Today is Valentine's Day.
Very much.
You're not watching on Valentine's Day, but today is. And wanted to give props to my husband, who is probably the most supportive person out, him and Ham, and Mushu at BGG, Alex at, Carbon, Ulog also at Carbon, and all of the talent that's helped me along the way. There's a lot of people who've had a hand in helping me get to where I am, and I hope one day that I get to help you all out as well. And so, I think that's a good way to end.
All right. Thank you guys for watching episode 10 of Delve Further. This should be coming up soon. Like and subscribe and all that jazz, and we'll see you in the next one.